Welcome to the audiobook of New Social Studies, Grade 10. Unit 9, Lesson 1, page number 349. United Nations and its organs. Introduction. The United Nations is the largest international organization founded on 24th October 1945 AD. It was founded as a successor to the League of Nations in the hope that it would mediate in the conflicts between states and thereby keep the world away from war. The organization is financed by assessed and voluntary contributions from its member states. So far, 193 countries have got the membership of the UN. The main objectives of the establishment of the UN were A. To maintain peace and security in the world. B. To achieve international cooperation in solving various problems. C. To work for economic development, social progress, and human rights issues. And D. To develop friendly relations among all the nations based on the principles of equal rights and respect for self-decision. Historical background of UN. It was felt necessary from the beginning of the Second World War to establish a worldwide peacekeeping organization in order to stop the war and maintain peace in the world. The world leaders of that time made lots of efforts to stop the war and protect the mankind from the suffering of the wars. The leaders of Allies power held a meeting at London and issued a declaration called London Declaration on 12 June 1941 AD, appealing for the end of the war and ensure international cooperation and peace. On 14 August 1941 AD, US President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Winston Churchill prepared a joint declaration in a battleship in the Atlantic Ocean and issued Atlantic Charter for the world peace. On the 1st January 1942 AD, representatives of 26 nations met in Washington to sign the Declaration of the United Nations, endorsing the Atlantic Charter, pledging to use their full resources against the Axis and agreeing not to make a separate peace. The name United Nations was first used by the US President Franklin D. Roosevelt in this declaration. Similarly, Moscow Declaration, Tehran Declaration, Dumbarton Declaration, Yalta Declaration, etc. contributed in the formation of this international organization. San Francisco Conference finalized the Charter of the United Nations, which was adopted and signed on 26 June 1945 by the representatives of the 50 countries. Poland, which was not represented at the conference, signed it later and became one of the original 51 member states. Finally, the United Nations officially came into existence on 24 October 1945 when the Charter has been ratified by China, France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and by a majority of other signatories. United Nations Day is celebrated on 24th October each year. English, French, Chinese, Russian, and Spanish are the official languages of the UN from the beginning, and Arabian language was also added as an official language of the UN in 1973 AD. There are 19 chapters and 111 articles in the UN Charter. According to the Article 4 of the UN Charter, following are the provisions to obtain the membership of the UN. A. Should be peace-loving state. B. Should accept the obligations contained in the present Charter. C. Should be able and willing to carry out these obligations in the judgment of the organization. D. Should be recommended by the Security Council with the approval of 9 members, including all 5 permanent members. And E. Should be approved by the General Assembly with a 2/3 majority of the members presenting and voting. Organs of the UN. The UN Charter has mentioned the principal organs of the UN in Article 7. They all were established on 24 October 1945 AD when the UN was founded. The organs of the UN are Number 1, the General Assembly. Number 2, the Security Council. Number 3, the Economic and Social Council. Number 4, the Trusteeship Council. Number 5, the International Court of Justice. Number 6, the Secretariat. I will repeat that, the Secretariat. Number 1, the General Assembly. Introduction. The United Nations General Assembly is one of the 6 principal organs of the United Nations. All 193 member states of the UN represent the General Assembly. It is also called the legislature of the UN as it is the main deliberative, policy-making and representative organ of the UN. Decisions on important questions such as those on peace and security, admission of new members and budgetary matters require a 2/3 majority of the General Assembly. Decisions on other questions are by simple majority. Annual General Assembly session begins on 3rd Tuesday of September every year in General Assembly Hall in New York, in which many heads of state attend an address. Each member state sends 5 representatives to the General Assembly session, but can cast only 1 vote. The General Assembly each year elects a General Assembly President and 17 Vice Presidents to serve a 1-year term of office. In order to manage the functions of the General Assembly, there are 6 main committees. They are, number 1, First Committee, which is Disarmament and International Security. Number 2, Second Commitment, which is Economic and Financial. Number 3, Third Committee, Social, Humanitarian and Cultural. Number 4, Fourth Committee, Special Political and Decolonization. Number 5, Fifth Committee, Administrative and Budgetary. Number 6, Sixth Committee, which is Legal. Functions. The General Assembly exercises deliberative, supervisory, financial, and elective functions relating to any matter within the scope of the UN Charter. For example, discussion on the international peace and security, discussion on the reports obtained from the Security Council and other organs, issue membership, pass annual budget, appointment of Secretary General on the recommendation of the Security Council, elect the members of the Economic and Social Council, elect the judges to the International Court of Justice, etc. Number 2, the Security Council. Introduction. The Security Council is the most powerful body of the United Nations. Its primary responsibility is to maintain international peace and security. It has 15 member states consisting of 5 permanent and 10 non-permanent members. The permanent members are the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. The temporary members are elected from the General Assembly for 2 years term on a regional basis. For example, 5 from African and Asian countries, 1 from Eastern European countries, 2 from Latin American and Caribbean countries, and 2 from Western European and other countries. The 5 permanent members hold veto power. Veto, V-E-T-O, is a special right which can reject any decision made by General Assembly. Nepal was also elected twice for the non-permanent members of the Security Council. The Security Council has a presidency which rotates and changes every month. Functions. The primary function of the Security Council is to maintain international peace and security. Besides this, it performs other functions as well. For example, recommends for the membership of new states in the UN, mobilizes the peacekeeping force as per the need, recommends the General Assembly for the appointment of Secretary General, research on the dispute and condition which may occur in international struggle, etc. Number 3, the Economic and Social Council. Introduction. The Economic and Social Council is the principal body for coordination, policy review, policy dialogue, and recommendations on economic, social and environmental issues, as well as implementation of internationally agreed development goals. It has 54 members elected by the General Assembly for a term of 3 years on regional basis, like 11 from Asia, 14 from Africa, 10 from Latin America, 6 from Europe, 2 from Western Europe, and 13 from other nations. 1/3 of its members are changed through election every year. There are 9 commissions under it. The proposals are passed through majority and each member can cast 1 vote. Functions. The Economic and Social Council serves as the central mechanism for activities of the UN system and its specialized agency in the economic, social, and environmental fields. For example, study on the fields of international economic, educational, social aspects and present the report, recommend for maintaining and promoting human rights and fundamental rights, organize international conferences related to various fields, follow the responsibility given by the General Assembly, etc. 4. The Trusteeship Council. Introduction. The Trusteeship Council is one of the principal organs of the UN. It was established on the idea that colonial territories taken from countries defeated in war should not be annexed by the victorious powers, but should be administered by a trust country under international supervision until their future status was determined. The Council originally consisted of states administering trust territories, permanent members of the Security Council that did not administer trust territories, and other members elected by the General Assembly. With the independence of Palau in 1994 AD, the Council suspended operations. Functions. It was designed to supervise the government of trust territories, which is countries without self-government, and to lead them to self-government or independence. There were 11 trust territories that had been placed under the administration of 7 member states. By 1994, all trust territories attained self-government or independence. Thus, the Trusteeship Council suspended operation on 1st November 1994 AD. Number 5. The International Court of Justice. Introduction. The International Court of Justice is the judicial organ of the UN. It is permanently in session. There are 15 judges elected by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council for 9 years. Among them, 5 judges are from the permanent member countries of the Security Council, and remaining 10 judges are appointed from other countries covering all the continents. More than 1 judge cannot be appointed from the same country. 1/3 of the judges are elected in every 3 years. They are eligible for re-election also. The judges elect their own president and vice president for a 3-year term. Its head office is in Hague, Hague, Netherlands. English and French are the official languages of the International Court of Justice. Functions. The functions of the International Court of Justice are to settle international legal disputes, to give advisory opinion on legal questions to UN organs and specialized agencies, interpretation of treaties and legal terms. Number 6. The Secretariat. Introduction. The Secretariat is the administrative unit of the UN. It comprises the Secretary General and UN staff members like translators, clerks, technicians, administrators, project directors, and negotiators. The Secretary General is Chief Administrative Officer of the UN elected by the General Assembly on the recommendation of the Security Council for a renewable 5-year term. He or she must have the approval of all 5 permanent members of the Security Council to be selected to the post. Because of this, Secretaries General are usually come from small neutral countries. Antonio Guterres, the former Prime Minister of Portugal, has been appointed as the Secretary General of the UN since 1st January 2017 AD. Functions. The Secretariat is entrusted with administrative duties, maintaining records and overseeing or performing secretarial duties. It mediates in the international disputes, prepares and distributes reports, keeps records of the UN activities and informs the world about them, prepares agendas to discuss and organizes international conferences on the subjects of international importance, runs the activities to maintain peace, carries out the task as directed by the Security Council, General Assembly, and other UN organs. Activities, page number 354. Number 1. Read the following text about the provision of membership in the United Nations and discuss in the class. Membership, Article 3. The original members of the United Nations shall be the states which, having participated in the United Nations Conference on International Organization at San Francisco, or having previously signed the Declaration by United Nations of 1st January 1942, signed the present Charter and ratify it in accordance with Article 110. Article 4. Number 1. Membership in the United Nations is open to all other peace-loving states which accept the obligations contained in the present Charter and, in the judgment of the organization, are able and willing to carry out these obligations. Number 2. The admission of any such state to membership in the United Nations will be affected by a decision of the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council. Article 5. A member of the United Nations against which preventive or enforcement action has been taken by the Security Council may be suspended from the exercise of the rights and privileges of membership by the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council. The exercise of these rights and privileges may be restored by the Security Council. Article 6. A member of the United Nations which has persistently violated the principles contained in the present Charter may be expelled from the organization by the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council. Number 2. Present an act on the General Assembly session of the UN in the class. Exercise, very short answer questions. 1. What is the Atlantic Charter? 2. When was the UN established? 3. What is veto? 4. Write the name of the permanent member countries of the UN Security Council. 5. Who is the present Secretary General of the UN? Short answer questions. Number 1. Mention the historical background of the establishment of the UN. Number 2. Do you agree that the role of the UN has been more important in the present context? Present your view. Number 3. Prepare a model of news including the functions of the General Assembly of the UN. Number 4. Critically examine the activities of the UN. Number 5. Is the UN successful to achieve its objectives? Present your opinion. Number 6. What roles can the UN play to protect the rights of small and poor countries? Clarify. Number 7. Explain the roles played by the UN to maintain peace in the world. Project work. Collect information about the organs of the UN and their functions. Prepare a table including such information and present in the class. This is the end of Unit 9, Lesson 1 at page number 354. This podcast is dedicated to visually impaired students. So if you know anybody who needs this book to listen and learn, please share the link and also please subscribe the channel. Thank you and all the best.